Today is December 8th, 2025, and today we are meeting Aer'l. Aer'l came through June 6, 2023 at 10:55:04 p.m. And he did so. This is going to be the main thing I'm putting through on this frame today, and is the reason I'm introducing Aer'l to you separately from Wahl, when normally I would have put them together. Aer'l is the main being who was transmitting through and making the contact in the particular transmission we're seeing here today. However, I have mentioned previously how the beings all intersect, they all overlap, and the main overlap being the eye. So what I will see when I go into the crystal is a variety of clear frames, the frontmost of which I see two faces overlapping, sharing a singular eye. The subsequent data, the rest of their faces, the rest of their structure, the environment that they're in, etc., things like this, show up on consecutive frames behind the one that's in the front. However, I see them all together. I can just tell that they're distinct frames. So in this transmission, and hopefully I've been showing you the original transmission as I've been speaking, there's two faces overlapping, but the main face coming through, the dominant eye and side of the face, was from Aer'l. I introduced Wahl to you first, which is the other side of the face, and the archetype behind this being coming through, which is a deer archetype, because I felt I needed some time, some distance between Aer'l and myself. In fact, for the past 2.5 years, I never even filled him in completely the way that we are seeing here. There is a kind of nervous energy that comes through with this that I can't identify for certain. It does not, I feel, have to do with some of the contacts I've had wherein I find myself in the out-of-body state, onboard craft on the table. I've actually had a breakthrough on the beings that were associated with that particular instance with me, and it is not this species. It's a different species entirely. What am I getting at here? It just took me a while to be able to receive and process Aer'l directly. And so for the past 2.5 years, I've been doing it indirectly through Wahl, just gleaning into Aer'l through my focus on the transmission where I highlight Wahl. I hope that made sense. Prior to Aer'l and Wahl, the deer archetype that this being comes through was Kiez, and I will briefly show him here as well. If I'm remembering correctly, he came through roughly a month prior to Aer'l's transmission. This particular transmission from Aer'l, he has come through before. They all share one key core feature, and that is a set of deep brown eyes. They are unique to each of the beings. However, there is a depth of similarity in which the concept that comes through it, these deep brown eyes, is that of father. I clearly, when Aer'l comes through, feel the presence of who was my earth father. And why this is, I do not know yet. Again, there has been some hesitancy in looking deeper into this. However, I will share a few things with you. The first time Aer'l came through, and each time I have captured him, I have caught him directly in my space, in the etheric frequency bandwidth of my 3D physical space, or in other words, in the etheric frequency version of my physical room. And there's a way in which I can work with the crystal in order to do this, to look through the 3D physical frequency into the etheric frequency bandwidth to detect who is directly here in my space with me. Often these beings are just outside my window. They're very easy to capture just outside my window. However, periodically they are directly in the room with me. And in Aer'l's case, he does and is allowed to come in this closely, likely due to the connection with who was my Earth Father. So, there's a way in which I work with the crystal. You have heard me mention this before in previous segments. It is a process that I refer to as triangulation, in which I go into a point in the crystal, a point on the crystal where three faces meet, and it creates this sort of portal. When I take my vision directly into the point, it opens up new frames. I can go out beyond the body or the elemental basis or networking within the crystal, out into wider dimensions, the time dimensions, galactic space, 456D, where I can interact with those dimensions, those frequency fields more directly than through the elemental networking of the crystal, which is a bit different. In the case of Aer'l coming through, I'm not working with the crystal in this way. I'm not going out beyond the body of the crystal. I am utilizing the crystal and its capacity for detecting data and even rendering that data in my immediate space. And so in these frames, there are ways in which I can tell that this is what's happening in these transmissions and the captures as I'm getting them. You can clearly see the crystal. You can clearly see my hand behind the crystal. You can clearly see elements of my room within the picture. You can, most importantly, see the window and the light that's streaming in through the window. That one seems to be a critical element in capturing this kind of transmission, this data, rendering this kind of data, just bringing it more to the front of my attention. And so I will just mention that this is the technique I'm utilizing, and not so much a technique. I just find myself doing it. I don't even know how I know to do it. I just intuitively, inherently seem to know. And so, yeah, I'll just be working with the crystal, and these elements will be present, and I will be able to glean now, especially most immediately, that I'm attempting to pick up on somebody here who's in my space, and likely I'm doing this because I'm behind my awareness doing this. I'm peering into this data. However, I'm again bringing it into the front of my attention, into my conscious state of awareness, to where I can be aware of and see who it is who is here with me in the space, and perhaps even for what reason. So I have caught quite a few beings in my direct space with me, all related to me, all related to concepts related to me, such as that of being a seer, certain elements of being in the category of priestess, and working in and around these concepts. So here with Aer'l, I'm capturing him directly here in the space with me. And before I close off here, I will say in the first contact from him, in which I am working with the crystal and detecting him here in my space, he's actually reaching his hand out and touching my own. I can see that his hand, or that of his hand, which I see a thumb and 2 digits, and on the tip of each what looks like a suction cup. The skin, especially in the first transmission, leans more toward the white or ash than the gray. However, here let me say that as far as species go, I think we do have clear signs and symbols here that Aer'l is or may be potentially a gray or a gray type species. I simply don't have enough awareness and knowledge relative to species of galactic beings, even after seeing as many as I have. I still don't have the information on the exact species and what it is that even qualifies one to fall within the category of a certain species. But because this concept of a gray is the only one I have to work with at present, it is how I receive him at present as being potentially of a gray type species. You can see by the eyes here, and possibly in any and all of the captures I've made to date, that none, not even the grays, have these large, dark, wraparound eyes like are commonly depicted. They are very normal, if not just slightly larger eyes than ourselves, and not black, not exceptionally large, not wraparound. Not that there are not species that do not have this. I've captured some insectoid species that have this concept of the wraparound eye. But as far as the gray type species go, no. All of the beings who have come through that I would place in this category for now, simply again for not having another concept to work with, have more normal, more usual, more Earth-like type eyes. And so anyway, I'm just going to mention that here now because it is something I look more into, because I know with the information that's going out to consensus, there is inaccurate concepts going out there as well, whether intended or unintended. That data is there. So let me place mine here as well with this, while saying that I myself have not seen this feature in any of the gray type species of beings that have come through to me through the crystal. There have been a variety, perhaps a couple or few dozen, that I would have to place in this category. And again, although the eyes might be significantly larger than our own, still incredibly, incredibly Earth human like. Okay. So it took me 2.5 years, but I am working more directly with receiving Aer'l himself more directly rather than through Wahl, and I will continue to do so because it feels important and because it feels the time is right. And because the connection with my father is incredibly present here, and my own awakening was timed in conjunction with his own passing. So there is something to do with us and with that is critical to everything I find unfolding within myself at present. Okay, let me go ahead and recede here now and let those who wish connect for a moment with Aer'l. Okay. In that moment of silence, I was being reminded of one other thing I would like to mention, and that is the pearlescent white helmet, white light helmet that has come through over the top of Aer'l's head. I'm just going to go ahead and mention it here because I am curious at it. I find myself wondering if it is a part or portion of his authentic biological structure, and or if it is a device of some sort, or even if somehow both. So this is one of the things that I'm intent upon getting some information on at present, and if anything comes through, I will be sure to report that. We will be back again soon with the next being.